All right. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am so excited to be bringing on a special guest. You possibly might recognize her from before, but we have Michele Stamn here from Wellness Empowered. And just tell you a little bit about her before we get into it. So she's the founder of Wellness Empowered, and she's very passionate about helping people break free from not only overwhelm, but to help create realistic, sustainable health habits that last. She uses a heart-centered whole person approach, and she's focused on mindset, accountability, and practical lifestyle shifts that empower individuals to take ownership of their well-being. Her work blends compassion, motivation, real-world strategies to support lasting transformation without perfection or burnout. That's the key. So I'm excited for you to join us today, Michele. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and for all those nice words. That's awesome. You can introduce me anytime.
Well, and I'm just excited. I think it's kind of a breath of fresh air to hear from someone who tells us that it's not necessary to focus on perfection. And because I think a lot of people who are either trying to make significant lifestyle changes or who have already been pretty successful in it can get overwhelmed by the idea of making so many changes all at once. And you got to do this, and this, and this, and you can't do that, and you definitely can't do that. That it can become so overwhelming that you say, you know what, it's just not worth it. I don't think this is sustainable. So to basically have your whole approach being that we can take you from that place of feeling overwhelmed to now feeling empowered, and that it isn't just about perfection, I think is a really important conversation to have.
Yes, obviously I totally agree. And you're right. So many people think, like plant-based eating is just this whole new world and I've got, like you said, I've got to do this, and I can't eat this and I have to eat that. And you know what? You can only eat one meal at a time. So like if you just take one step at a time, that is always the best thing to do. And really before you take that step, it's always good to take that deep breath and just focus and just one thing at a time. You literally can only do the next thing. You can't do the next, no matter what it is, whether you're overwhelmed by food or life or work or your kids or whatever, you literally can only do one thing at a time. That I hate the word literally sometimes, but this is one of the times it's literally true.
Yeah, well, and that just it because a lot of times we are thinking about what are we doing next week and next month and next year, and you're thinking of all of these things ahead of you. Where if we're just focusing on just that meal in the moment and that decision, that one decision in the moment of am I going to grab that apple or am I going to grab the candy bar, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It really does boil it down. It's a lot more simple if you're
Correct.
thinking about it that way.
For sure. For sure.
And we didn't have a chance to do this yet, but I did want to ask, for the people who are watching us right now, where you're watching from. It would be nice to see from around the internet, because we've got people on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, maybe some people on LinkedIn. So watching from all over the place, but where in the world are you watching from? And Michele, remind me of where you are. Where are you located?
So I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, land of cheese, beer, and brats, and I always say if I can eat plant-based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, people can make it work anywhere.
That's such a good point. And, I did my residency training in Montana, and I've heard this, I don't know if it's true or not, but that there are more cattle than there are humans in Montana.
Oh my.
Uh, yeah. So definitely, beef loving area. And I was able to maintain a whole food plant-based diet while I was there. So it is possible, definitely.
You don't
I
have to
still,
be in LA.
no, you don't. And in fact, I remember going to this farmer's market in Montana, and they had, oh, it was the most amazing. I still have a picture of it, but they had the most amazing choice of all these different types of potatoes.
Ooh,
And I just remember thinking, I am in potato heaven right now. Like there's so many different potatoes I can choose from this farmer's market in this tiny little town in, in Montana.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So, okay, so let's see. I guess I don't know where other people are watching from. We don't have any comments on that, but that's okay. So, wherever you are watching from, we appreciate you being here. All
Absolutely.
right. Okay, so Michele, I know that what we wanted to talk about today was this idea of, um, going from this kind of feeling of being overwhelmed to being empowered. And you have mentioned to me in the past that you have kind of some techniques and things that you talk about, and especially some cases of people that you've worked with that have had some improvements. Do you want to start out by just telling us kind of anything that you would recommend, any kind of tips and tricks that would help people starting out with this?
Okay. I think the very most important thing somebody can do is focus on your wins. That's the fancy term I use when I work with my clients is let's talk about your wins. And I've learned that that is the best place to start every single client session. And how I learned that kind of the hard way because as I started working with people, the first thing they would come to me and talk about was like, oh, well, this went wrong this week and none of my kids would eat dinner. And I went out and forgot to ask it without cheese. And like, it just it wasn't setting up an environment for success when we started by talking about all the problems. And of course we talk about those things, in our coaching sessions, because those are real problems and we have to figure out real solutions for them. But before we start that conversation, I always have my clients start with the wins. And I ask them, what has gone well since we last met? And sometimes the list is a mile long and sometimes we're digging to find it, but it can even be like, I drank more water this week and, I chose to eat oatmeal instead of eggs today, or just, it can be anything. It can be, I got a new plant-based cookbook from the library, or I listened to a podcast where I, felt encouraged by the story I heard. Honestly, it can be anything. I went out to eat and I remembered to order my food without cheese. It can be anything, but focusing on those wins first really makes such a difference. And I think also knowing, now I'm not a big, I don't give a lot of homework per se, but my clients know this is going to be the first question I ask them. So I think when you know that you're going to be talking about this, right, you start intentionally looking for those wins. So maybe the first few sessions, I have to kind of coax the wins out of them, but maybe by the third or fourth session, they're coming. And I think that's because they're looking for them. So, the analogy is kind of like if you buy a new green Subaru, you've never noticed green Subarus on the road before. See, I have a green Subaru. This is why I thought of that car. But like I never noticed them. And then a couple of years ago, I got one. And I don't know, I'm always like, oh, there's one, and I never noticed before. So I think the same thing with wins. If you're looking for them, you will find them. And it makes all the difference in switching to this, because of course you're going to run into trouble, but you have to kind of reward yourself for how great you're doing first, and then figure out the next step.
Yeah, I think that is so important because I do find that in the patients that I work with, I sometimes will have people come to me and maybe we've rechecked a lab. So for instance, someone with diabetes, we might recheck a hemoglobin A1C to see are they seeing improvements. And very often I'll have people where if the improvement is too small, that is what they're focusing on. That it isn't that, oh, my A1C came down 0.2. It's, I wish that it would have been more. I was expecting it to be more. I failed. Where we need to really reset that and look at it a totally different way, which is you've seen improvement, and this isn't because you're on medications. This is really because of the work that you're doing. We're seeing it go in the right direction. Same thing with weight loss. a lot of, well, I was losing so much weight initially and now it's really slowed and I only lost a half a pound last week. But you're going in the right direction, right? This is a
Right.
win. So it's easy to also take what would be a win and finagle it in a way to make it seem like it's a failure when it really isn't.
hmm That's what I mean. I think our brains just, and I've heard psychologists talk about this too. Like we do sort of default to the negative. There's something, like I think it's a protective it literally protects you, right? If you have to look back in the bajillion years ago or whatever, you had to be watching for danger and problems all the time. So it's sort of part of an evolutionary process, I guess. So we're not really trained to look for the wins, for the good stuff, but once you do, it makes all the difference. And there's even a book, and I think I mentioned the last time we talked, called The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And believe me, they're both way smarter about this stuff than I am. But what and it's a great book, and it's not specifically about food. But if any of you are struggling with lifestyle change, it's a really great book to check out. And they talk about just like Olympic athletes and stuff who, when they focused on the gain, like how far they had come, that usually brought more progress versus when they focused on the gap of how far they still had to go. So, if they only lowered their hemoglobin A1C 0.2 and they were focused on wanting to lower it the next 2.2 points or whatever, but no, to focus on that 0.2 is going to get you to accomplish your goal rather than focusing on the, oh, I have so far to go thing.
Right,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so I realize that as we've been talking about this, there probably are some people who are watching who aren't familiar with you and kind of what you do. We've kind of briefly talked about it, that you work with people and helping
Mm-hmm.
them with these kinds of things. But if you wouldn't mind kind of taking us back to, a little bit about you and how you kind of got started in this whole world and what you do provide for people.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. So, currently, I am a plant-based health coach. And what that means is I help people who want to make the shift to plant-based eating. Um, Most of the people I work with are doing so to improve their health in one way or another, but they know they want to do it. Their doctors recommended it, or they saw Forks Over Knives or something like that, and they know they want to do this to all the things: lower their cholesterol, lower their blood pressure, reverse their diabetes, but they just can't. They can't, either because they don't believe in themselves, or they just honestly are afraid to try tofu, or they have an unsupportive spouse, or whatever barrier it is that's getting in their way. That's my job, is to help them pass the barriers, and celebrate the wins alongside of them along the way, and get them to a point where they're eating plant-based, hopefully fully plant-based. That's always my goal. Some people are wanting to go further on the journey than others, but most of the people I work with do make this shift to a fully plant-based diet. And then their wellness has been empowered, literally the name of my business, so that they can continue the journey on their own. I'm all about, helping people get to the point where they can do it on their own. And some people it takes 3 months, and some people it takes a year, but we stick with it. We work together until they make that happen. And I do all of my coaching virtually. So just, on Zoom, if you figured out how to join this call, it's probably even easier than that. So, do a little more about my past then? Or
Yeah, I'd love to
okay.
hear more about, what
Yeah.
got you started in this to begin
Okay.
with and your own plant-based journey.
Yeah, that's a story I love telling. I kind of almost came at plant-based eating by accident. My sister-in-law recommended to me that I read the book Eat to Live versus Live to Eat. I think that's by Dr. Joel Furman. And I read that, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, changing what you eat can make such a difference in your health. And I think why this interested me so much is I'm a physical therapist. I became a PT like 35 years ago now, which I just can't say that without going, oh, 35 years. Anyway, 35 years ago, I became a PT. And I mostly worked in rehab settings, nursing homes, long-term care facilities, helping people, learn to walk again after they'd had a stroke or a heart attack, or maybe they lost a limb from diabetes. So when I read from Dr. Joel Foreman, and then I did some more research as well. But when I read that you could actually lower your cholesterol or reverse diabetes or do these kinds of things just by changing what you ate, I couldn't believe it. I'll be honest, working with so many people who had had strokes over the years, that's probably my biggest fear, that I would have a stroke one day.
Mm,
And I just felt like I had no control over that. I mean, of course, we don't have control over every single thing that happens to us in life, but I wanted to do everything I could to sort of improve my odds. So I thought, I got to figure this plant-based thing out. So I kind of tiptoed into it. I went vegetarian first, and then I gave up one thing after another. And second to last to go for me was ice cream. And my last thing, we talked about this last time, Nikki, is cheese. And that was the hardest for me, but I did figure it out. It's been well over 15 years ago that I did that. And so this is how I eat. And I thought it would be hard, but it had its challenges making the transition, but now I love my food. I don't feel deprived in any way. So anyway, this is all happening with me. And at the same time, still going to work every day, working with my patients who still are having strokes, diabetes, heart attacks, all the things, knee replacements. And I started thinking, I wanted to tell them, I'm like, oh my gosh, do you know what you could do if you just, ate some vegetables and stopped eating that omelet or something? But I couldn't do that because I'm the PT and there's other people that are trained to do that, to be the dietitians or whatever where I worked. So I couldn't really have that conversation. So I decided to go back to school to become a plant-based health coach so that I could meet those patients, before they ever had their stroke, when their cholesterol was just starting to go up, before they ever needed their leg amputated from diabetes. So once their A1C started to creep up, if they were like, I want to try plant-based eating, but I just don't know how to do it, that's what I wanted to do. So anyway, long story to say that I went back to school to become a coach. So I would sort of have some credibility in being able to help people eat this way. And I think the PT experience helps because all of PT was always helping people accomplish goals. That's literally our whole job as a PT. Like, I want to walk again. I want to be able to hold my grandkids again, all of that. So now I just help people accomplish their health goals, but in a different way.
yeah, and to have that experience of being in the medical system as a PT and
Mm-hmm.
seeing all of that firsthand to now I feel like it helps you probably be a better health coach because you have that background.
Yeah, for sure. And it definitely helps me. I know the picture when somebody is saying like, oh, I want to do all I can so I don't have Alzheimer's like my mom. I watched my mom suffer and die, and I don't want that. And so I know that picture of what that looks like. And I'm right there with them. I don't want that for them either. So if there's
Yeah.
anything we can do to stop that from happening, that's the goal.
So what was your own experience like transitioning? Did you have help?
Um, I didn't. Which is probably why it took me years to do it. I had some friends. I remember like years ago, I had a friend and we would walk together and we would talk about flaxseed, which I know that sounds like we're more fun than that, I promise. But like I remember having these conversations and like, how could I incorporate flaxseed in my life? So I had some friends along the way. And my husband, honestly, he would encourage, he's like, I don't know, he's maybe braver than I am or something. I don't know. But he's like, well, we could try tofu. Like, it's not, it's just food. Like, it's not that scary. So, I had people helping me, I guess. But honestly, listening to things like this, and I'm not just saying this as a commercial, but like all the podcasts and the Forks Over Knives movies and stuff, like I would watch them. I think I was so inspired by the other people who were doing this, and I just knew I had to figure it out, but I surely didn't figure it out overnight. Now, the good news for me is I was in pretty good health to begin with. I maybe had some, girl problems and stuff like that, but so I didn't feel like I had to turn it around on a dime, but yeah, so I figured it out myself, which is the hard way for sure, but that's what I did.
Yeah, well, and like you said, it takes longer doing it
Mm-hmm,
that way. It
mm-hmm.
certainly took me a long time to get to where I am now because I was really doing it on my own and figuring out as I went. And eating some vegan junk food for a while and not doing great with that. And
Yep.
so it does take time. So I feel like it's really amazing now that we actually have people like you doing what you're doing. And then of course doctors like me who get to help people getting off medications as they start to see these improvements.
For
This just
sure.
wasn't available 10 years ago, or 15 years ago.
Right, right. And it's so nice to have a team of people. And honestly, I think that makes anything easier for, even if you're like, I've tried quilting a little bit, but like I think if I were going to actually make a quilt, like I would need a team of people who know how to do this. I guess this isn't a skill area for me, but I know we have YouTube and stuff, but I don't think if I needed to make a quilt, I think I need a real person helping me, and because that would be a big life change for me. So if somebody is trying to make something that does feel overwhelming, anytime you're overwhelmed, you reach out for help. That's one of the other tools you can use, I guess, to get over being overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's interesting because I've dreamt of making my own sourdough bread for a really long time,
Mhm.
and have never gotten around. And I know I could easily look it up on YouTube and learn how to do it, and I could have done it 2 years ago. But but it wasn't until I was talking with a friend who makes it, and she said, "I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to teach you." It's like, okay, now I'm actually going to do it because someone is helping me with it. A lot, an actual person is going to be helping me with it, and I think
Mhm.
that does make a difference.
It does, and it's so funny you say that because I just helped my cousin maybe a month ago learn how to make sourdough bread. So I was gonna, before you said you had a friend, I was gonna be like, I'll help you.
Yeah, no, she's coming to my house. She's
That's
actually going to
better.
come over. I know. I'm so excited. So I'll have to update you on how it goes. Take some
Yes,
pictures.
yes, please. I'm
I'm
very
hoping
interested.
hoping it works out.
You can do it, Nikki. You can do it.
Okay, I just wanted to let people know that we do have some comments coming in of people who are watching from different areas. So we've got somebody in Florida who's watching. Looks like from Los Angeles. Let's see, land of the $19 raw animal smoothie. Have you
Oh,
heard of this?
oh no, but I don't know if my life is better having heard of it. That sounds
I know. I'm
horrible.
like, I don't think I want to Google that. That sounds pretty horrible.
But I'm glad that's not on the menu. That's a good thing.
$19. What? Okay. And then they gave us more information of where to find that.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so we do have a question if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, so how do you counter the current trend of the keto, carnivore, paleo narratives with your clients? I am curious about this. If you have anyone who comes to you who has done this kind of way of eating and then ends up finding you for a certain reason.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm going to start with a angle on the question. How about this? So for my client, and then I will think on this exactly and
Yeah.
come back to it, I promise. But sometimes my clients, I guess maybe that's part of the answer. Usually by the time somebody finds me, they want to eat plant-based. Or at least they're pretty curious or they're going down this road. Honestly, if somebody contacted me and said they wanted to eat a keto diet and could I help them? I would say no, I can't help you with that. I'm happy to tell you about plant-based eating and all the wonderful, people I've worked with who've transformed their life in so many ways. And I'd be happy to share those stories. But certainly if you want to eat keto, I'm probably the least qualified person to help you. So maybe that's how I answer that question. But honestly, by the time most people find me, they are already at least wanting to move this direction. But then for my clients, sometimes they get barraged with this question. Like they might, sometimes they want to just fly under the radar, which I understand that, especially as they're getting started. But then maybe a friend will notice like, oh, they ordered their enchilada without cheese, or they brought salad to the party or something like that. And they start asking questions, which first of all, I always tell them, are these people asking you questions because they're truly interested and maybe they want to make some changes to their own health? Or are they asking you questions just kind of in a confrontational way? So, because those people out there too. But what I tell my clients is that if somebody's asking you a lot of questions about why are you eating vegan, why are you eating a plant-based diet, I usually tell them to answer from their own personal perspective. And they could say, like, I don't know if this is the right way for everybody, but for me, my knees don't hurt anymore. And the last time I went to the doctor, my cholesterol was down 30 points. So that's what's happening for me. So that's why I choose to eat this way. So I don't know if that answers the question, probably in a very roundabout way, but
Yeah.
yeah, I nobody has to get into a debate. I'm a coach. I've studied this. I'm really not interested. You will never find me on a podcast debating somebody from the keto side or whatever. Like, I am not interested in that, even with the knowledge that I have. So for my clients who are just shifting to this way of eating, I tell them they are not responsible for defending this lifestyle to the world. They just need to make a decision for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say the way that I read this question is, well, I guess it's counter the current trend. Basically, my experience with this is that I've been seeing more and more patients who have tried these different diets and not done well with them, and in
Mhm.
fact had worsening diabetes or worsening cholesterol or weight gain or just not feeling well. And then they start searching, okay, this isn't working, what else could I try? And so then they end up finding, oh, maybe a plant-based diet is something that would work better for me. So then they come to me, I help them make those changes, and sure enough, they do see those improvements. So that's been my experience with it, is that people are failing on these diets because they're not sustainable, they're not healthy. And
Right.
so then they end up finding plant-based, and then they really thrive. In fact, I had a patient who was doing carnivore, and she had some incredible improvements in her health once she went plant-based. And I actually interviewed her on our YouTube show, and her name is Shauna Sharples. So you can go back and watch that episode for anyone who's watching. But it was a really incredible transformation. And it was, I think, important to hear someone who uh, has experienced that type of diet and what
Mhm.
it felt like to be eating only animal foods, to then go plant-based, and to hear about that transition.
Yeah, I will definitely check that out because that I'm the 180 transformation. I'm sure it was just huge. So yeah, I if somebody's not sure if they're like, well, I'm going to move this direction or anything, I usually tell them just try it. Just try it for a couple months, and then you'll know what it feels like. So the example I kind of use, I'm a big metaphor girl, but I say I've never been to Africa, and I can read all the books and I can watch movies and I can taste food that somebody from Africa made and stuff like that. But unless I go there, I'm not going to know what it really feels like, this other country, this other continent than where I live. And I think it's the same thing with plant-based. Like, you can watch the movies, listen to shows like this where people talk about their transformations. You can maybe try some tofu here and there or something like that. But unless you just really give it a try, I usually encourage people 3 months, but anything, a month, 2 months, 3 months, just give it a try. And usually people sort of prove to themselves, kind of like Shauna did, like, oh my goodness, I feel so much better eating this way. The food's actually good. And I love waking up without feeling sluggish, and my joints aren't hurting all the time and stuff. And I think people kind of create their own evidence when they step into this lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think that's definitely a good way of allowing people to not. It kind of goes back to that overwhelm, right? If it's,
Hmm.
I got to go plant-based for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
This is what I have to do forever.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm going to like it. And instead saying, just try it out. Give
Yep.
it a couple of weeks, give it a month, see how you feel, and go
Hmm.
from there.
Hmm.
And it turns out most people do so well and feel so good that they want to continue it. And it doesn't feel so overwhelming once you've actually tried it and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
oatmeal is plant-based. I can
Yeah.
do oatmeal.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
potatoes are plant-based. I like potatoes. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be these complicated recipes or buying expensive ingredients and things. It
Mhm.
really can be very simple.
Absolutely.
All right. It looks like we've got, let's see. Oh, well, first of all, I wanted to mention, so your website, just so in case people are interested in looking at, what you offer. So it's wellness-empowered.org
Correct.
where people can find you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about a few things. You and I had talked in the past about kind of some of these things that can help people go from the overwhelmed to empowered. And one of the things that you mentioned was focusing on yourself first. Tell
Mm.
us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I had a client, or well, she became a client, but when she reached out for a consult call, which is honestly how everybody starts working with me, it's just a free conversation, you and me on Zoom. But she reached out to me on that call. Her name's Pam. And Pam said, I really want my husband to make the shift to plant-based eating. He has diabetes and it's getting worse and worse. And I know plant-based eating could help him. And, can you help him? And I, in the kindest way, I said, he's not here. He's not on this call with us, but you are, Pam. And why don't we focus first on you? And because she was eating more and more and more plant-based, but she wasn't all the way there. And she definitely had some health goals. She wanted to lower her cholesterol. She wanted to lose weight. She had migraines that would, put her out of commission at least once a month. She hot flashes, a bunch of stuff going on. Plus, her family, I think her dad was part of a family of, I don't know. I guess I won't use numbers because I don't want to like point out to who she is exactly, but a large majority of her aunts and uncles had died of Alzheimer's disease. They had Alzheimer's disease. So she had seen this play out in many, many, many other relatives, and she did not want that for herself. So I was like, okay, let's just focus on you first, Pam. So we got her transitioning to a plant-based diet. She made the full transition. And as a result of how she was eating, she accomplished all of her goals. Her cholesterol came down 70 points. She lost 30 pounds. Her hot flashes pretty much went away, and her migraines pretty much went away as well. Her joints no longer ache. She wakes up in the morning and she says she just feels great. She doesn't take any medications, and she's 63. And so a lot of her friends who are her age are taking medications, but not her. She's not taking any medications. So this is what happened to Pam when she focused on herself. And what was happening all that time is Pam was she's a really good cook. And so she's making great food. She apparently, I need to get this recipe. She makes a ranch dressing with cashews that her husband was starting to put on his salad. And then she would make, bean chili without the meat, and he would taste it. And then one day she works from home. So she was doing really great things to support her plant-based diet. So she kind of pre-made her salads for the week. So she went at lunchtime to the fridge to grab her salad, and her salad wasn't there. And nobody had broken into her house, right? Like her husband had gone and taken the salad. So she was a little frustrated in the moment that she didn't have salad for lunch that day, but she was also really happy because she knew that he was eating the salad. So he was eating increasingly plant-based as time went on, and still wasn't 100% there by any means. And then, because Pam had backed off and wasn't nagging at him or anything. And I shouldn't put the word nag on Pam. That's me. Ask my husband. I'm good at that nagging business. But since we had talked, she wasn't nagging. She was just leading by example. Anyway, all this was happening. And then one day, and I remember this day so well because she emailed me and then we talked about it at our next session. And as she was telling me this story, her eyes were literally filling with tears. And she said that he just woke up one day and he looked at her and he said, I'm ready. And right, I get tingles when I think about this. And he said, I'm ready. And then ever since then, he's been just increasingly on board. And he wanted to watch the Game Changers with her. He signed up for the Forks Over Knives newsletters. And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, Pam, did you see there's this webinar? Should we watch it together? And anyway, all of this started because she invested in herself first. And then by joyfully living a plant-based life, he saw that as like an invitation into this way of eating instead of being nagged into it. I've learned carrot, and this works so well for all the puns, but a carrot is always going to work better than a stick to get somebody to eat plant-based. And then I guess to continue the story, he started seeing improvements in his health. His A1C, it's still got a little ways to go, but as we talk about gap versus gain earlier, it's gone from 8.2 to 7. I mean, that's a pretty big improvement. His joints aren't bothering him as much anymore, and he says he feels better than he's felt in years. So, and that's going to keep him going. And now together they're eating food, and he's like her veggie meatloaf, which I don't know if that's what you would call it exactly, but is like, it tastes like the real thing, he says, only it's more filling. So it's just so fun to see somebody make this change by taking care of themselves. And not every story goes this way, right? But you can't force somebody else to make the change. But when you invest first in yourself, that is the best way to help somebody else change.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Leading by example, being a good role model, instead of telling someone else what they should do, it's just such an easier way to help someone decide for themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And the more delicious the food, the prettier the food. I always say like the plants are always going to be the prettiest thing on the table. So look at your Thanksgiving table. Most of us are going to, there's, I'm not going to make it, but there's going to be a turkey on my table. But the prettiest foods on the table are going to be the plants. I mean, the cranberries, bright red, the squash or sweet potatoes is bright orange. Like, hopefully somebody brings a salad that's going to be bright green. Those are the prettiest foods. And so whenever I bring, and I don't bring like iceberg lettuce with a pink tomato salad, I bring like the salad, with all the bright greens and the fruits and the veggies and the, just lots of stuff on my salad. They always disappear. And I worried about that at first. I was like, ooh, are people going to think I'm weird bringing a salad? It's always gone, which is great. I have the same experience Pam did. I'm like, I'm so glad that everybody ate my salad. And I'm also a little disappointed because I don't have any leftovers for the next day.
Yep. Oh, yep. I love that. I love it. Okay, let's see if there's any other comments here. Let's see. Well, this is kind of already what we had talked about, how to navigate with clients who have family members that aren't on board. So I think we've already discussed that basically you're just, leading by example.
Yeah. I have a story I can share there.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So when I first made the switch to eating plant-based, what I don't want anybody to think is that I made this change and it was so easy for me. And I just, boom, I made the change and I just started telling everybody they should do this. It wasn't like that at all. I didn't want to be a bother. I didn't want to draw attention to myself. I just kind of wanted to hide in the corner, And so my first Christmas, when I decided I was going to eat, I'd made the transition to eating a fully plant-based diet. I wasn't going to quit just on Christmas Day or anything. But when I married into the Stamn family, ever since, and which has been 30 years now. So for about the first 15 years of my Stamn family life, and still is true today, their Christmas meal is centered around my mother-in-law's meatballs. Just a thing. And for the first 15 years of my, life with the Stamms, I ate meatballs with the gravy and the potatoes and all of that on Christmas Day. And so the first couple years when I wasn't going to eat that, I just kind of didn't dish those foods up. And then I just put on my plate, like literally all I had was a pretty simple salad because I hadn't mastered the fancy salad yet. So like some salad and some green beans. And I just kind of ate that. I tried to dish up last so nobody would look at me. And I kind of just sat away, it wasn't horrible, but I tried to not draw any attention to myself. After a couple of years of this, I started thinking like, how is this going to make anybody desire to eat plant-based? If my whole family is thinking that on Christmas, potentially the most fun food day of the year, all you can eat is green beans and lettuce, like who wants to be plant-based if that's the case, right? And so once I realized this, I was like, this is not going to work. First of all, I deserve better than this on Christmas. And second of all, if I want to make this look good to people, lettuce and green beans aren't going to cut it. I mean, they're a nice side dish, but they're not a main dish. So I've learned how to make tofu ricotta stuffed shells. And I'm telling you, if you don't like tofu or you're afraid of tofu, putting it in a food processor with some nutritional yeast and a few seasonings and stuff, turning it into a ricotta cheese and putting it in a stuffed shell and pouring some marinara sauce on top, mwah, chef's kiss. It is so good and not really hard at all. A little putsy because you're stuffing the shells, but it's Christmas. So, and so now I make that every year at Christmas. And what's really cool now, not everybody eats the meatballs anymore, but some of them do. But everybody pretty much takes my shells. So they're having both on their plate, and some are just having the shells. And even people who are the furthest from eating plant-based, like my niece's boyfriend came to Christmas last year, and he's been here for a couple Christmases now. And he walked into the kitchen, he said, "Oh, good. I was hoping you would make those again." And I was
awesome.
Like, that goes on my win list, right? Like,
absolutely.
He's not eating tofu on any normal basis, but he was looking forward to those shells. So honestly, that is how I handle it with family members, is I invite them in. The more delicious and beautiful the food is, that's an invitation. And honestly, that's what, maybe not on a Tuesday night when you've got 5 kids to feed or something, but when on these special occasions, we are trying to love on our families with food. So the more pretty it can be, the more tasty it can be. That's when I pull out all my best recipes. And so drawing them in, again, that carrot versus the stick.
That's such a great idea. Okay, so I'm sure people are wondering, where's the recipe for the shells, Michele?
Yes, well,
Michelle's shells.
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna have to work on that. Just shoot me an email. I'd be happy to send it to you. Yep, there's the website. So go there. You can email me from there, or hopefully the website tells you how to reach out. My email's on there. There's a contact me page. Just type in Michele Shells. I'll send it to you. I'm happy to share the recipe. I am not, like some people's grandmas like try and hide the recipe. That you can have all my recipes. Please take them, make them for other people. Spread the plant-based word.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about another idea for going from overwhelmed to empowered. So let's see, self-worth as the switch. When someone moves from "I'm the difficult one at the table" to "I am worth it," consistency stops feeling like deprivation and starts feeling like self-care.
Yeah. I think one of the stories that I would talk about there is the one I just told. Like, I think at the beginning, for my own personal self, like I was like, well, I don't want to upset anybody, and it doesn't really matter what I eat on Christmas. And then once I started saying, you know what, Michele, it's Christmas for you too, and you should be able to have something delicious. And honestly, that was an impetus for change in my family. Like I said, not everybody's eating 100% plant-based, but they're a lot more interested in it. I know there's more plants on their plates than there used to be, because I first invested in myself. And I had a client, and I'm just going to read this. So she had some amazing health transformations too as a result of going plant-based. She was able to lose, I think, 32 pounds. She fits into her size 10 pants again. And she's a new grandma. So she's, her granddaughter is a little over 1 now. So she's super motivated. She wants to sit on the floor. She wants to feel good and play with her brand new granddaughter, who's adorable, by the way. And so those are all the reasons she wanted to improve her health. But one of the things holding her back was just thinking she was the difficult one. So when she would go out to eat, she would eat the cheese on her pizza, or she would, go to the restaurant that didn't have anything for her to eat. So when she started believing she was worth it, that made the eating plant-based more sustainable for her, so she could do it across all settings. So I would love to read this little quote. She said,
"Yeah, please.
I have gone from calling myself the difficult one at the table to the one who is confident about the ingredients I put into my body when I order out with friends. I have used all kinds of negative self-talk in the past, but no more. I am worth it." And with all the changes I mentioned before, so I asked my clients for testimonies after we worked together, as a good business owner. And she listed, the 32 pounds of weight loss and the size 10 jeans and all that kind of stuff. But she said, The biggest result that I love is my change in mindset. And then she
Mm.
went on to write what I just shared with you. So I don't know. And then because she believes she's worth it, now I know she's going to keep eating this way. So she learned the skills of how to maybe navigate a menu and stuff like that. But what she really learned was that she feels better. She can be the grandma she wants to be. She's probably going to be around for a longer time to be that grandma. And because she believes she's worth it. And what a great example to set for her granddaughter, not only in serving her granddaughter, fruits and veggies and stuff, but also who doesn't want to empower their granddaughter to grow into a young woman who believes she is worth it. That's what I love about this work is it's just the food leads to self-empowerment. Like it's this big, beautiful cycle. I love this so much and I love talking about it. So thanks everybody for listening.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I love it too. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I even have, kind of a similar story where because I stopped eating animal foods, started the process of it as a teenager. So it's been many decades now. Uh, but one of the things that happened is I went plant-based because I had really no outside support. I basically got sucked back into eating like everyone else again,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to be the weird one. I didn't want to feel like I was causing problems for people. And it wasn't until I started to basically do the same thing, which was, step into my own power and just saying, hey, this is the way I want to live my life. This makes me feel good. This is what I want to do. And so I am going to go and I'm going to do it, whether people like it or not. And, now look at me.
Yeah, look at you leading other people.
So yeah, it definitely, it can make a big difference. Okay, so what about this? Uh, so future self and identity. Inviting listeners to imagine what is possible, then reverse engineer it with small, repeatable steps. So what do you mean by that?
Well, I might have used the word reverse engineer because I thought maybe that would, land with you, the engineer. But we talked about this last time, and for anybody who has heard me refer to that was back in May. If you want to dig that up, but one of the things we talked about in that episode is how your thoughts, things you think, lead to your feelings, which leads you to do certain things in your life, and what you do is what ultimately creates results in your life. So you can kind of work backwards on that rather than choosing a thought or having a thought leading to a feeling to an action to a result. You can work backwards, and if you spell it, it spells results, action, feeling, thought goes RAFT. So the coachy thing to say is you build a raft for yourself. So what you do, and this is something I encourage my clients to do, is choose the result that you want. So maybe your result is as simple as I want to improve my health by plant-based eating. So you want next time you go to the doctor to have those numbers be a little bit better or something like that. So that's the result you're looking for. And then you think about, that's our R, and then we build the A. So what are the actions you need to take to make that happen? You listen to something like this, right? You check out the plant-based book from the library and make it 2 new recipes this week. You choose almond milk instead of dairy milk when you make your oatmeal in the morning. You choose to notice your wins because, like we talked about, that is a really big deal, to notice what's improving instead of just feeling bummed about what's not working, that kind of thing. So you choose those actions, but then you need to think about, like, what would you need to feel to do those things? Like, so if you're feeling discouraged or frustrated or down on yourself, that's not going to encourage you to choose plants at your next meal, right? But if you choose hopefulness or empowerment or even curiosity about, like, oh, how is this going to work? That's a helpful feeling, to be curious or hopeful or excited. And then you choose the thought that helps you get there. So maybe the thought is just, instead of feeling overwhelmed, you choose a thought that I can do this. I'm going to just take one step at a time. And so when you think I can do this one step at a time, you no longer feel doubt. You feel excited or empowered or curious about how it's going to work. And then you start taking one step at a time, whether that's making tofu tonight or, oh, yeah, that's right, I have that lentil soup recipe my grandma used to make. I'm going to make that for dinner, or whatever it is. You just do one step at a time. And before you know it, you're creating the results you want. And so you can, that's the very sort of mechanical engineering kind of way of doing it, building that raft. But you can also just allow yourself to daydream and really imagine what that would be like. Imagine what it would be like at your, maybe your granddaughter's getting married next summer. Imagine what it would feel like to fit into that dress you want to fit into, or to be able to dance without your knees hurting or something like that. And just, we daydreamed all the time as kids. Let yourself do that a little bit, but then believe that that really can be the truth for you. You really can make it happen by doing that one step at a time.
And I really like that idea of curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that whenever people consider making big changes in their life, it can feel scary and you don't know what to expect. Like, it sounds like your husband was kind of curious about tofu, and you
Mm-hmm.
were like, I don't know. But having that curiosity of this doesn't have to be something that is scary. It can be something that's exciting, a
Mm-hmm.
new journey that you're going on, new foods to try, new recipes to make, new people to meet. Meeting people who are doing similar things to you. Holding a potluck in your community and meeting other like-minded people. So really, I guess changing that mindset of that this doesn't need to be something that's scary, and it can be really something that you can be really curious about. I wonder what that tastes like. I wonder if I did this. I wonder if I brought this to Thanksgiving.
Yep.
So having that, and I love that you brought up daydreaming. I'm a daydreamer all day long, every day. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so so I think that's really important too, is really imagining, because some people don't imagine what life could be like, and they're kind of stuck in the status quo. And if you really can truly sit back and imagine what could it be like,
Mm-hmm.
because I'll tell you right now, Michelle, I daydreamed about what I'm doing right here, right now, many years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was working in my little cubicle as an engineer, saying, there's got to be a way that people can eat more plants. Uh, what if I became a doctor and I could, wow, wouldn't that be cool if I could get out and do something like that and really get to talk to people and make a difference and see people get better? Wouldn't that be so cool? And I imagined it first.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm sitting here right now, getting to do what I love and being so passionate about it, is because I did daydream about it.
And that's a perfect example, because I'm sure when you did daydream about it, and then I bet you did at times feel overwhelmed at the idea of having to take the MCATs and get into med school and do med school. I mean, my goodness. But you didn't just like do it all at once. You daydreamed, you started imagining that future for yourself. And then you were like, okay, if I'm going to make this happen, I'm going to have to figure out the MCATs. I bet you started doing that. Like, you did it literally one step at a time, and you're here. And you didn't know what the journey was going to look like exactly. You could imagine the ending. You didn't know. I'm sure there were good days and bad days along the journey,
Oh yeah.
but you're here. And that can be it for the plant-based thing for anybody. I mean, yeah, I love that. It started with imagining, and then one step at a time, and you did it. So,
Well, so somebody had laid out to me, here's what life is going to look like for the next 10 years of
well,
you going back to school to do prerequisites, getting into medical school, doing residency, all of the things that are involved in all of that. And they showed it all to me laid out on a table. I don't know that I would have done it.
mhm.
But what was in my mind was this end goal, this daydream that I had. So it was very easy for me to get up I mean, not easy, but when I had to get up early in the morning to spend the entire day in the hospital doing things that I knew I wasn't going to do as a lifestyle medicine doctor, but I knew it was part of the process of getting to that.
Mhm.
It was all about that end goal. It was that result part of the raft that I always had in my mind. And so even those day to day that were difficult were so much easier because I knew that I was just one day closer to that end goal.
Yeah, yeah. And while that's a perfect example, I don't want anybody to think that eating a plant-based diet could possibly be as hard as becoming a doctor. So,
Not at all. Not at all. It's
so
way more
it's
fun.
it's way more fun, way easier.
Way
I mean,
more
I've
fun.
never been to medical school, but I know a lot of doctors, and PT school is hard enough. I can't imagine. So, I think we're all super glad that you did it, Nikki. I will say I sure am. But yeah, so don't think it's that hard. Just it's a lot easier to eat more plants than to study for those exams I'm sure you had to take.
It is. It is. But if you think about like, okay, there are going to be days where you're struggling
Mhm.
socially or with people who you live with, or maybe you make a recipe and you don't like it. And you're like, oh, well, great. I have to eat this for dinner and I'm not going to really feel satisfied. There are going to be those ups and downs, but having that in mind of what that future is going to look like helps you get to the next day. Like, okay, I'm going to try a different recipe today. I'm excited. I'm curious to see if I did this instead, if
Yeah.
that would taste better, right?
Yeah. And then there's parts of your future that are even better than you thought they were going to be too. I'm sure in your profession, but just from kind of my own personal plant-based journey a little bit, like I have, and I think you'll like this too. My son's an engineer and he's 27 now, and he's part of a group of 6 guys, and they were friends like in middle school and high school, and they lovingly were called the nerd herd. I didn't call them that, like their friends did, and they called themselves that. So I think I can say it because it's a term of endearment. And there were 6 of them, and they were such close friends. So I got to know the nerd herd moms, we call ourselves. And so there's 6 of us. And when we were, back 10 years ago now, we were planning their graduation party because they all graduated together. And I was, we would meet out at restaurants or whatever. And when we'd meet out, sometimes there was something good for me to eat. Sometimes I had to finagle it a little bit, but I was choosing a plant-based meal. Didn't make a big deal about it, but I was one of 6 people and was just kind of quietly, confidently eating the way I wanted to eat. I will tell you, there's still 6 of us, but now 3 of us. That's 50% of us now are eating plant-based. And so when you live this lifestyle and you live it joyfully, other people notice. And honestly, it's so great for me that they've come along, because now we get a little more vote in what restaurant to go to or whatever when we meet up. And I would say, like, you kind of build your own plant-based support group as you go, as if you make it. And you don't have to make it look, you don't have to make like amazing meals all the time and skip through life. You can tell people the truth about your challenges and stuff like that. But if you believe, like the person we talked about before, that I am worth it, and you eat this way because you believe this is how you want to eat and believe you're worth it, people notice, and it really can change things. So, and you don't have to, they didn't change because I'm a coach. They changed because I'm their friend, and they had some reasons they wanted to make the change. So anyway.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, all right. So let's end off with, of course, I've got your website up there. So if you are interested in seeing what Michele does and what she offers, please check out her website. And anything else that you've got coming up that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I actually have something brand new happening at Wellness Empowered. It is a course called the Plant-Based Dip. It is going to be a 30-day guided experience to help somebody try on plant-based eating and really discover for yourself how doable, delicious, and fun eating this way really can be. So, like I said, 30 days. So for the first 3 weeks, there's going to be lots of learning and experimenting and discovering, where you're going to be able to, kind of learn the basics of plant-based eating, get some of your questions answered, talk about some of these mindset things that Nikki and I have discussed already. You're going to have some simple recipes that taste delicious, learn more about making the food delicious. We're going to talk about taking your plant-based show on the road and learning to navigate social situations and all that. Those first 3 weeks, like I said, it's discovering, it's experimenting, doing all of that. And then the 4th week, you are going to take the plant-based plunge. all puns always intended for me. We're going to plunge into you eating fully plant-based for 1 week, sort of proving to yourself that you can do this. And you'll be able to do it because you will have built your own playbook really of how to do it during those first 3 weeks. And then I'll be there to fully support you the whole time during that plunge week. And like I said, the goal is really for you to feel capable of eating this way so you know that you can make it work for your own life. And if you're interested, you are invited to join the wait list for the plant-based dip. We're going to start in January, but you can get on the wait list now. And you want to be on the wait list because I'm going to share some special bonuses there, including recipes for dips, for plant-based dips. I mean, the course wouldn't be complete without them. And I'll tell you, there's a fruit dip that I won't give any more away, but it is the bomb. It is really good. And while you're on my website, you are also can check out more. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, you can book a call there, or I do have a roadmap for your plant-based journey to better health, and you can sign up for that too. And everything I just talked about, the wait list, the coaching, or the consult, and then the roadmap, it's all free. There's no commitments. It's really just a way to support you. So if eating more plant-based is on your heart, there's lots of tools there to help you get started.
Wow. Thank you so much. I think that's incredible that you're offering that. And I totally love that it's, dipping your toes in and then taking the plunge. I think that's really smart.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's another good thing to do towards not being overwhelmed is just dip in like one step at a time. And that's what that whole 3 weeks is designed for, is really just trying on one thing at a time. And we do it in such an easy way where one of the steps is like, hey, what do you already eat that's plant-based? Let's start there. Like, it does not have to be hard. You really, really, really can do this.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And we've got someone who's saying thank you so much. They're excited. Great work. Thank you for the introduction to Michele and Wellness Empowered. So it was just so wonderful to have you, Michele. I think, we should just do this a lot.
I'm happy to keep talking. I'll talk about plants and people eating them any day you want, Nikki.
Me too, Michele. All right, so that's her website there. So please check out her website to learn more about her program and her one-on-one coaching. And I just want to thank you, Michele, again for being here today. Really appreciate it. It's just always a pleasure.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. And thanks to all of you for listening. Thanks for listening in on our chat. It's so great to have you here.
Yeah. And, if you have not met with one of our doctors at Lifestyle Telemedicine, you can visit us at lifestyletelemedicine.com. We have doctors that cover all 50 states, DC, and international. So if you need a lifestyle medicine doctor who is supportive of you making these changes to eating more plant foods, maybe you're on a bunch of medications, maybe you are just sick of not feeling your best and you want somebody to help support you in that process, come meet with us. We would love to talk with you. And you can always call us as well. Susan is wonderful. That's who you likely would talk to. She's our patient care coordinator. And if you just have questions about what it looks like, what do these appointments even look like, you can just talk to her if you want to get a little bit more information before you book. But again, we would love to see you at lifestyletelemedicine.com. So please give us a visit. And until next time, I'm Dr. Nikki Davis with Lifestyle Telemedicine. Thanks everybody for watching.
Bye-bye.